It is 7 o'clock, so we will get started. I think we have a longer than maybe usual agenda, at least for the last few weeks, or last few months. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the next few moments, thank you, Suzanne. For the next few moments, we will deviate slightly from the agenda. This is not a new item of business, but something that we are aware of. Tonight, we want to offer our congratulations to Fire and EMS Chief Steve Robertson on completing the National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer Program. The Executive Fire Officer Program participants enhance their professional development through a unique series of 4 resident, graduate, and upper-level college equivalent courses. The program spans a 4-year period and consists of 4 core courses, which I understand because of COVID lasted far longer than 4 years. Am I correct? Yeah.
Closer to
6. Extra credit. Following each course, an applied research project must be completed. The project identifies a problem or issue that currently exists within the participant's organization and/or jurisdiction which has significance to the course just completed. Projects are due within 6 months and are evaluated by contract reviewers. Because of the pandemic, Chief Robertson's 4-year program turned into 5+ years, but he preserved and finished strong. To put this accomplishment into perspective, there are 1.2 million firefighters, officers, and chiefs in the U.S., representing 32,000 fire departments. Including Steve's graduating class, there are 4,575 Executive Fire Officer Program graduates from the program's 37-year history. That means only 0.38%, so 0.38% of the American Fire Service has achieved what the U.S. Fire Administration considers the pinnacle of executive fire service education. Chief Robertson is in pretty exclusive company, and that Newton Fire and EMS is very fortunate to have someone with Steve's level of commitment, education, experience, and character leading the organization. While the program is grounded in emergency services, the educational goals are much broader than teaching fire chiefs how to better respond to emergency incidents, although that's part of it. The goal is to prepare them to more effectively lead change in their organizations, their communities, and the emergency services industry itself. In essence, program graduates are prepared to exercise leadership in ways that touch people and process far beyond the day-to-day administration of a fire department. In addition, students cultivate a global peer group of students, graduates, and faculty. It's a tightly knit community that is deeply invested in helping one another progress and succeed. The program truly provides a world-class education. Steve also recently completed coursework for a Master of Business Administration degree in Human Resources Management from Pittsburgh State University, with graduation coming up in May. He has a bachelor's degree from Friends and is a paramedic and registered nurse. We know Chief Robertson is humble and understated about his own work, and that's why we wanted to publicly recognize his commitment and the importance and value of his accomplishments. And we want to acknowledge how thankful we are to live in a place where city employees are encouraged to grow, learn, and engage in programs like this for the benefit of the people they serve. So Steve, will you come forward? Thank you. Come down here. For the sake of those who may be watching online, if everyone just stand up for just a moment, his wife is here with him tonight, which we know after all of those accomplishments, she deserves a round of applause as well. And also, if you would come forward. We as well have 2 of our former fire chiefs here for the city of Newton, and we would like to ask them to come forward, please, as well. And 2 of our deputy chiefs are here with us tonight as well. So if they would come forward as well, we'll get a group picture with all of you here.
And Mayor, while they were coming up, I had a bit of an oversight here. I neglected to mention that Chief's parents are also with us this evening.
Okay. So Chief's parents will come forward as well.
Yeah,
we want
if we could.
Somebody had to give him the brains or the smarts, so you need to come forward as well.
It's somebody's fault.
Let's do a picture with them when we're done. If you want to do that, okay. Let's maybe step over to the side. They can do their pictures, and then we'll gather with them when they're done.
2, 3. Thank you.
Chief and Deputy Chief, why don't you stay here? We'll need you in a good position as well. No, please stay. I'm gonna make the decision.
So are we gonna Photoshop Commissioner Crying?
If he snooze, you lose. He'll be laying across the diet.
Thank you much.
And to all of our guests, you are of course welcome to stay if you would like, but you're also welcome to head out because we probably know you have business to go to at your own this evening. So thank you all for making time for us.
It's always fun when we get to start the evening like that, and thank you to the guests who came and was a part of that celebration. I understand that Chief may have been interested in going out to a fire or something tonight out east of town, but your coworkers told you that they had it covered, and so you could come here this evening. So.
15 evaluations right around.
Well, thank you to, I know Deputy Chief Beebe already left, but thank you to all the rest of you for making this happen tonight as well. All right, our first item of business is to consider the minutes of the March 22nd, 2022 meeting and April 7th, 2022 agenda meeting.
I move we approve.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, item number 2, we have 3 items on this one, Kansas low interest loan. The first one, 7 p.m. or tonight, we will conduct a public hearing regarding a proposed loan amendment with the Public Water Supply Loan Fund administered by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for the groundwater tanks. So, Suzanne, if you want to start us off with this.
I would like to. If you recall, back in November of last year, well, actually, we started this many years ago, the design for this improvement, because we have some serious problems with the interior structure of the tank. And we moved through the design process and state approvals and all of that, and then we were able to acquire property from the railroad, which took a lengthy period of time. Then we went through the bidding process after the commission approved the project in November of last year. And in December, when we received the bids back, the low bid was over the estimate. And as you know, bids have been a little bit crazy lately. Construction costs are kind of all over the board. And so we went back to the state, because the way we are funding this project is through a low-interest loan through the state of Kansas. But remember, the project also, the loan includes not just the tank improvements, but it also includes painting to the water towers that's going to be done when the tank improvements are completed. Because the tank project came in higher than we anticipated, we requested a loan amendment from the state of Kansas. And in order for us to move forward, we needed them to approve that so that we could get the contract signed with the contractor and with the low bid. We went through that process, and if you remember, I discussed with you that we went ahead and I approved them moving forward with some of the pipe purchases, because we knew that costs were going up. The contractor still has not signed the contract, and we'll get to that in a minute, but what you have in the packet is the amendment to the loan. And in order for the amendment to the loan to be approved, you have to approve an ordinance that is also in your packet. And so you would approve the ordinance that is authorizing staff to move forward with the loan agreement. With that said, we have been working with the contractor, and since this all took much longer than we anticipated, and we had to shift to the point where we are not doing both tanks, because remember, we're placing an existing tank with 2 tanks, so that we'll be able to take them down for maintenance when that's much easier than what we have today, because then we have to really be cautious about how we're pumping water through our transmission lines. As we were waiting to get all the approvals, then the contractor didn't have enough time to get both tanks done this year, so it splits it up. There was mobilization cost increases, and they have come back with an escalation in cost and have documented it well. Myself and the engineering firm that's working on the project with us has went over this. A lot of the costs have to do with electrical components that are a part of the project as well, because remember, all of this gets controlled by our SCADA system. And the escalation in cost is $336,610. So what we're planning to do, assuming you approve the loan agreement and the ordinance, is we're going to go ahead and we will sign the contract, and then we'll do a change order for that amount right out of the gate. Otherwise, we have to go back through this whole process, and we have to publish, because in order for us to have, because we will get to a public hearing where people can come up and comment to this, when we are doing the low-interest loan process through the state of Kansas, we have to go through a publication period where we put all of this information in the paper, and then there's a 30-day waiting period, and then we have hold a public hearing, then you approve the loan agreement. And we don't want to keep going through that process. The state has approved us doing it this way. And so, in all transparency, we want to let you know how we're handling this. This is a large change order off the bat. We typically wouldn't do these this big, but these are unusual circumstances that we're dealing with because of construction costs being very volatile since the pandemic. So that is the very short version of the beginning, because you've heard about the project for years. And that is where we're at with the loan agreement. And then once we approve that, we would move forward and do a change order to the project. Because the water tanks are also included in there, there's enough money in the project. And then once we have estimates ready to go and move forward with the water towers, we may have to amend the loan agreement again, or we may choose to use cash out of reserves to pay the loan down in the end, so that we don't have to do an additional increase. But we have options there. So what we should do now then is allow an opportunity for the public to comment now that we've kind of explained the project. If anybody wants to comment, we can do that. If not, then we would take it back to the bench, and then we would need you to approve the loan amendment as per the ordinance.
All right, well, it's time we will open up the public hearing. If there's anybody here to speak on this, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Okay, that will conclude our public hearing. If there's any discussion from the bench, we can have that now.
Can you say in a little more specificity about, you said the electrical cost is what made the majority of that 330,000, or what was that again?
Not the majority. That's one of the items. There is an increase in the reservoir itself. So remember, this is a precast concrete that we're going to be putting back in instead of steel. The site work overall, there is an increase. It has multiple items. Then there is electrical cost, and then there is some demolition increases. Remember, their price came in December, and so we're looking at the second tank work going to be done clear in 2023. So we're comparing a 2021 labor cost to 2023 labor costs too. So a lot of these things have to do with increases in their labor costs as well.
Perhaps I missed this somewhere. What was the delay, the 2 years now, between 2021 and starting in 2023?
Well, first we had a bid that was higher than the estimate. And then we had to wait on the state for the loan agreement for the amendment. And that has caused some of the pieces of this, because it takes several months to get all of those pieces done.
Yeah, thank you.
And the painting is the inside of the tanks as well as the outside?
Yes, it will be. The spheroid tanks, that would be the one by the high school and the one over on Spencer. And again, those can't be done until we have this project completed, because we have to drain the tanks.
So then the first piece of this action would be just a simple motion to approve the amendment to the loan? Is that correct,
It's
Denise?
an ordinance number.
Ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, you will need to approve the ordinance first, and that number is 5070-22.
I move to approve 5070-22.
I'll second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second, and a third, it sounds like. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item C on this is to consider an amendment to the loan agreement with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for the groundwater tank project.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for the amendment to the loan agreement. If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, thanks Suzanne for your work on that. Item number 3, Bunting Magnetics and a tax abatement for a closeout. Kelly, you'll be taking this, and our first item to discuss is to receive a report on the completion of the Bunting Magnetics industrial facility expansion located at 500 and 600 South Spencer and receive an updated cost-benefit analysis.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm pinch hitting for your, Mr. McCatton, your Development Director. He had a conflict this evening, so you got the B team tonight. So I would also note up front, though, that the Buntings have graciously come this evening to help answer any questions you may have, as well as Belle Shelton, our great partner at Harvey County EDC. So as a reminder, this project began in August of 2020 when the Commission approved a resolution that authorized the beginning of a property tax or ad valorem property tax abatement for an expansion at Bunting's existing facility, which you will see on the screen here. The expansion was for a customer experience center, and is what is shown kind of in that yellow box there. And it was approximately 1,500 square feet at an estimated value of $166,000. Also included an additional $86,000 for furniture, fixtures, and equipment to outfit the facility. And it was anticipated that 2 new jobs would be created as part of the expansion. As Suzanne just mentioned, there were, of course, supply chain issues, and it was difficult to get equipment, and those costs tended to escalate. So you guys continued the project in August 2021 for an additional year so that we could kind of work through the supply chain issues. And the project is now complete, and we are pleased to report that, remember, during any process that we do, either IRBs or a constitutional tax abatement, we always do a cost-benefit analysis, and that is provided by our partners at Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State. The original cost-benefit analysis in 2020, as I noted, said the estimate would be to create 2 jobs. Now that the project is closed out, we have an updated cost-benefit analysis, and we're pleased that the expansion actually created another job. So we have 3. Originally, the payroll estimated earnings over a 10-year period were $2.9 million, and the updated estimate is now $4.23 million. That's wonderful for our community. The net cost benefit for the city of Newton at the beginning was 1.44. That's the ratio. Anything over 1 we consider pretty successful. The updated numbers are now 1.45 for the city. For Harvey County, it was originally 1.52. It is now 1.53. For the state of Kansas, it was originally 33.09, and now it is 34.35. And for the school district, their ratio stayed the same at 1.55. So before you this evening, like I said, the last step in closing out this project is for you all to, open another public hearing. And should anyone wish to speak to the project, they may do so. We would ask after that you would close the hearing and consider adoption of an ordinance, which will then be sent to the state to finalize the process and conclude it. Do you have questions for me or for the Buntings or for?
I don't. Would the Buntings like to come up and add anything to this conversation, or did she cover it? You better come up if something's on your mind.
Never give up the podium.
Well, first off, Newton has always been cooperative with us, so I appreciate all the work you do behind the scenes that people don't really see. We've been here for 43 years, and I don't think we've ever had anything negative, so we're very, very happy. And the Experience Center is paying off. It's being used weekly. We do all our product testing there. We actually have live equipment that works. We've had some major automotive people visit us that have returned some good profits, good sales, anyhow. We'll worry about profits later. So we're pretty happy. I can answer any questions you want.
I know Newton is glad to have you part of the community.
My wife does most of the work.
Well, we're glad for her as well. Okay, any discussion before we open up the public hearing? Okay, at this time, we will open up the public hearing in regards to Bunting Magnetics tax abatement. If you are here to speak on that, please come to the podium and state your name and address. All right, this public hearing is closed. Any discussion from the bench? If not, we will move on to item C, which is to consider an ordinance granting the 10-year tax abatement.
Yes, and that ordinance number is 5071-22.
I move that we approve 5071-22.
I second.
All right, thank you. There's a motion and a second. If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, item number 4, Bunting Magnetics tax abatement. Item A is to conduct a public hearing on the tax abatement for Bunting Magnetics for a facility located at 1001 South Spencer Road.
And Mayor, if I may, I will give you a
Please do.
brief overview here. As Mr. Bunting noted, they have been in the community for many, many years, and we are very grateful to have such staunch business partners that work with us so well. This is actually a new request for a similar tax abatement request. It will be for 10 years, 100% of the valuation improvements. This is a new facility that they have purchased. It will be an expansion of their existing business facility. Building is approximately 12,000 square feet. It will be remodeled for specific manufacturing purposes. The estimated value of the current building and property is about $415,000. The company anticipates an additional $200,000 in build-out and $2.2 million in machinery and equipment for a total estimated investment of $2.815 million. Again, through CEDBR, the cost-benefit analysis, the return on investment, for the city of Newton, it is 1.41. For Harvey County, it is 1.48. For the state of Kansas, it is 27.55. And for the USD, it is 1.58. So I don't know if you have specific questions for the Buntings about the manufacturing that will be done in this facility. I don't know how much of that's public knowledge as of yet, so I would defer to them, of course. But it is definitely for manufacturing purposes, and it's an expansion to their existing facility.
Well, at this time, we will open up the public hearing for the tax abatement at 1001 South Spencer Road for Bunting Magnetics. And if you would like to speak on that, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Okay, public hearing is closed. We'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Any discussion from the bench? If not, we'll consider a resolution authorizing the tax abatement. And do you have that resolution number?
Yes, that resolution number is G-1279.
I move to approve G-1279.
Now second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for that resolution. If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. That passes.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to the Buntings for your investment. It's nice to see another facility on Spencer Road being used, so.
It'd be okay with us if you just kept buying one building a year. On into the unforeseen future. It'd be just okay.
I like that you're on both sides of the road now, so that's a master plan.
Yeah,
so.
that's nice.
Yeah.
All right, item number 5, receive and discuss proposals for recycling from private haulers. Suzanne?
Yes, Commissioners. If you recall, we discussed at your last meeting the changes that Harvey County made to how recycling would be handled at the county regarding their facility transfer station. And we looked at options for the city of Newton to continue recycling, and the commission directed staff to send out requests for proposals. You have a copy of the RFP that was sent out in your packet. And proposals were due on Monday, April 11th, and we received one proposal. The proposal has 2 different options in it, and I would like to go over those a bit with you. We may not hit all the details. I put the entirety of their proposal package in the commission packet, and we have a hard copy here if somebody wants a hard copy of it. They proposed two options. One of the options does not follow the guidelines of the RFP specifically, and that would be option A. But option A is what they preferred, and so they submitted option A, which is, they believe this is the model we're using today, where all of our customers pay for recycling, and the city bills for the recycling and trash and water and everything else. And so they have submitted this option where every one of our trash customers would pay $8.80 a month. Under this scenario, the city would bill the customers, and then we would pay Nisley one lump sum monthly. They would provide a recycle cart, a 95-gallon cart, to each one of our recycling customers, and the recycle carts would be dumped every other week, so twice a month, which is a difference than what we have today, but we said that would be allowable. They have said they would need at least 300 customers in order to do this option, and they say they need a 5-year contract with an inflation increase on January 1st of each year as it is needed. The monthly rate increase of 3 cents per cart per month for every $1 increase in recyclables processing charges is what would be that inflation increase. And that would be no more than once per year increase, but they would never propose a decrease from the rate as it increases. This one is much different than we discussed, because I just want to make sure everybody's clear on this. Currently, the trash rate is $24.37 a month. This would be an additional $8.80 for all customers, and that's not what we had talked about. But that is an option on the table for you, okay? And then the other option that they submitted was option B, and this would be $12.63 per month for recycling customers only, for only those who want to recycle. The only difference really in the two options is the price, and then the fact that they would do their own billing. So we would not be handling all of the billing, all of the administration side of the recycling process. And under this option, they could begin this option June 1, where the other option would begin July 1st. The 5-year contract, I think, could be an issue that we don't really know where we're going to be 5 years from now, and so I'm not sure how that's going to work. They have included some language as well regarding the termination clause that I think our legal staff would need to look at to see if that is even viable for us. And I'm sure, Chris, we just received these on Monday, so I know that legal staff have not had a chance to look at that. They have provided draft contracts for either of the two options, and there's a ton of information in here that we had requested with the RFP. I'm not going to go through all of that. If you have questions, we can get to that. Do you have specific questions? We do have somebody from Nisley that's here in the audience. If you have specific questions for them, I will try to answer questions if you have questions of staff.
Well, I just have a question about if the city signs a 5-year contract, but they bill the customers, I'm not sure how that would work.
Well,
And then the customer complaints, or is the city still going to be fielding a certain percentage of those and that type of thing?
I think it's inevitable under either option that, of course, we may get a complaint, because what is going to happen under the scenario where they're asking for 5 years is we are going to have an ordinance change, and basically we would give them exclusive rights for residential recycling within the city of Newton. So it would not be where any hauler could come in. They would be our contract vendor, if you will, or selected vendor under option 2. Under option A, they would be contracting with us, and we pay them the monthly fee because we're collecting the funds from our customers. Under option B, that they are handling that.
And then tell us again about how many customers, recycle customers we have. Is it 2,100 or 2,000 or 8?
Just right around 1,900 mark today. But remember, I do believe there's some of those that were in the program that have been taken out of the program because of all of the issues with contamination that may want to come back in, because what we had said is they'd be out of the program for a year. And so I'm sure some may want to come back in, but there may be some that are going to say, I'm not willing to pay $12.63 per month to recycle.
And as far as option A, how many customers do we have? How many, is it, I know at one time I thought it was like 7,200
We
something.
say about 7,500.
7,500
Well, we-
now.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's
So 75
constantly fluctuating.
Yeah.
So 7,500 customers will be billed $880 a month, whether they use recycling or not. And
Under
then-
option A.
And you will collect those monies every month and write one check to Nisley for the actual recycling services.
For the
For the ones that use, or, well, no, yeah, just the actual
On option A,
recycling
it would be everybody.
everybody. They get
All
the check,
7,500 customers would be billed the 8.
which is
whatever.
about
Right.
$66,000 a
Yes,
month, and they
right.
would get that.
But not everybody's going to use the recycling services, so.
Correct.
So you will pay Nisley for
All of them,
all of them.
even if they don't recycle.
Okay. Because you have, okay. So then, on option B, and this is, I think the other thing that is key on this is our citizens are used to pick up every week, and this is every other week. So on option B, when I was just doing some math on this, quarterly billing will be roughly $37 and some odd cents. And since it's every other week pickup, some folks will probably be forced to have an extra cart. If they are used to weekly pickup, then with their recyclables, it may warrant an extra cart, in which case, if that is the case, it's an additional $37 for the quarter if there are 2 carts. Would that be a fair statement?
I'm not for sure what they charge for their second cart.
Well, it says
It's the
additional
same.
residential
same?
cart
Yeah.
is the same.
Okay.
So then they will be being billed for, and where is the Nisley rep? I'm not trying to be critical, I hope that you understand that. I'm just trying to make the information clear, because we do have people that are listening live stream, and I think it's important that people hear, because I think one of the key points is that it's every other week, and our citizens are used to every week. So that is a big adjustment just in itself, how they plan for that, and especially the need for an additional recyclable cart. Because I know when we did recycling, we were flowing right up to the top in 1 week.
Sure. If you have a large family, definitely they could.
Well, we are not a large family, but we used a lot of things that needed to be put in the and we took advantage of that. So that's what I wanted to just make sure I understood. And do you think that of the last meeting that we had at March the 15th, it said we had 1,873 recycling customers. So do you think that, like you said, maybe not all of those are actually recycling? I mean, actually having carts picked up? Are all 1,873 people
Yes.
having
Well,
carts picked up?
As of March 15th, we had 873. I didn't check.
1,873?
Well, you're quoting what I said last
Yeah.
time. That's why I round it to approximately
Okay,
1,900.
Okay.
Because it's constantly changing. We can't, I can't predict how many. I have no idea who's going to
Yeah,
want to.
right.
So we can say that's what we have now, and they're saying they need at least 300 customers to make this work.
So we have that right now, but
Right.
I'm fearful that as it moves along, when people have that adjustment to their billing, especially to their pickup, and that means an additional cart, and with the 880, that's going to be an additional 880 for an additional recyclable cart.
What we would do, if you would choose either of these options, we're going to need to send something out to our customers and ask them, do you want to recycle? And explain to them what's going on and what the price will be. And then they'll have to note that on a form that we will send them. and then we will determine the number that we have at that point in time.
Okay.
I'm in favor of option B. I think that we should give our citizens the options to recycle if they want to.
I think it said something about you're welcome to put recycling next to the container if you overflowed on an occasional basis, and then if you needed, you could get a second container, so.
Okay.
Similar to what we do
What,
now, like
for
at
trash?
Christmas, people have a lot of extra, as long as it's not a continual thing.
And we can actually assign a sole vendor in this scenario. There's not a legal implication on this.
I believe that other cities have done it, and
Okay.
I see no reason why we can't enter into that contract.
Well, I'm for option B.
It makes no sense to me to do option A, to penalize everybody for what fewer people want. So, yeah, I'm very willing to give option B a shot.
Just-
No offense to you, sir. I hope that you'll understand that. I'm not supportive of that. I think that's just going to be too much of a, and I don't recycle, so part of me says I probably shouldn't even be saying that, but I can anticipate, I think, the responses, and maybe I just need to wait and see the responses from the folks who will send something back, because I think once they receive, an idea of what they'll be billed, and again, it's just because they're used to. And again, I'm speaking for them, and we did it at one time, but I know how it was for us, for just 2 people. And I anticipate that maybe some folks might have a struggle. I could be wrong, and I hope that if I'm wrong, I will certainly admit that I am. So,
Do you want a motion tonight to move forward with either one of these options?
Yes, that's what I would like.
Direction anyways,
And
okay.
of course, we're going to have to make ordinance changes, then we're going to have to go through the process of determining who all wants to recycle, see where the numbers fall. If they're under 300 to start with, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing table.
How is that process going to work? Are we just going to send a letter and expect them to call back if we never hear from them? Are we going to make every attempt to contact them? Or I'm afraid of any other mailing we've sent out sometimes goes largely unanswered. And so I don't want customers that want to recycle. And I know there's not 2,000 or $1,900 recycling customers watching tonight. Unless I'm wrong, Aaron, maybe there's that many online watching. Okay, I didn't think so. I thought the whole thing would crash if there was. But I'm just wondering, how can we make sure that our customers, our current recycling customers, know that this option is on the table and that they don't just get taken out because they throw away an extra piece of paper?
Yeah,
Hopefully into the recycling bin.
of course, we're going to, I'm sure there'll be some discussion about it in the newspaper.
Okay.
We will, of course, put things out on the webpage and utilize social media to spread the word as well. We have the ability to separate those that are recycling now and do a direct mail to
Okay.
those that
Oh,
are
that'd be great.
recycling today. We can also, we have to look, because we have certain things scheduled in our utility bills for stuffing that we are required to get the word out on, all kinds of other things. We'll have to see if we can stuff it in everybody's.
Yeah.
But I would anticipate we're going to do a direct mail to everybody that is recycling today. Those that are not recycling today but are interested in recycling, they're going to hear about it.
I think that's a great idea. So,
I thought that was I thought Nicely was going to pick up that. I thought we were going to hand over the list, and they were going to reach out to the customers and bear that expense and time.
It's going to take care of they're going to be the customer service people.
Right.
We don't get calls. We won't have to worry about the billing.
But the onboarding plan as part of the RFP response said
Yeah, I have
that
to
we
look
would
at
turn
that.
over that list and that Nicely would reach out direct.
Maybe they are going to, but we'd have to give them, we
The
can give
list.
them the
I think,
list
yeah.
for
Right.
them to
We'll make
reach out.
multiple efforts.
Right. Well, I think part of it is we shouldn't bear the full brunt of it. I mean, we are paying for a service that Nicely should be bearing that cost and that onboarding expense. That we should make the list available to them and then facilitate it.
We will help them be successful, but
Exactly.
they can do the
But
majority.
remember, in the meantime, then, as of the end of this month, there will be no more recycling until June 1st.
Right.
So will be, and they're going to provide their carts to those that are recycling. So we will be in the process of changing out our carts so that they can provide their cart when it's necessary. So for 2 months, there's going to be a transition period, and I know there'll be phone calls. And we will do our best to try and answer those, but I know you'll get them too. So please feel free to say, hey, if you're wanting recycling, you know, contact us, we'll get them in the right spot, but they are going to receive some information too.
So do you want an option just to move forward with one tonight as being our primary target, or what do you?
I would like you to vote to say either you want option A, B, or C that's not listed of no recycling, and then we will bring stuff back to you to
Okay.
start the process.
I move we approve option B.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. If no further discussion, all those in favor of option B, or that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, thank you, that carries. So option B, we'll look forward to hearing more on how we move forward with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item number 6, and thank you to Nisley for being here this evening. If you don't want to stay and hear the remainder of our meeting, if you want to, we'd love to have you. Item number 6 is consider the use of the 6th and Oak Street parking lot for use of picnic tables and trash containers for the barbecue for bricks on June 25th of 2022. Denise.
This request comes to you from the New Jerusalem Missions, and they did this fundraiser last year. It is open to the public, therefore they are requesting the use of picnic tables and trash containers, and we have approved that in the past. This will be on June 25th, starting at 8 a.m. and going till 8 p.m.
Any discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion, one way or the other.
I move that we approve the request.
I will second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, item number 7, C-CLIP 2022. The first item is to receive plans and specifications for the paving improvements on Main Street from 11th Street to Southeast 14th Street.
Yes, Commissioners, we have talked about this project multiple times before, too. And as most of the items on the agenda tonight, nothing is simple. There is a twist to this as well. On the screen, it's a little hard to see, but the orange is the 2022 C-CLIP. And you've approved the agreements and things that we needed to get us to this point, and we received funding from KDOT. We have the plans ready to go, and today I met with KDOT staff, and we have a couple of changes that really benefit us. And so the plans will remain the same, but how it's listed on some of the KDOT paperwork may change slightly. So I believe that the date and time to receive the bids is probably going to be extended out a week or so. And so if you could just allow me to set that once I hear back from KDOT, that would be great. Plans are ready. What we're looking at is a mill and overlay project, and we have not the northern piece, the red piece is in 2023. We're looking at the orange piece there. We have some focused work to do at 14th Street intersection and some focused work to do at 1st Street from kind of 1st to 4th. There is some areas where we definitely need to do some full depth base repairs prior to laying down asphalt. Everything on the in-between is going to receive milling and then asphalt as well. Then any ADA ramp that leads to a crossing of K-15 will have to be brought up to standards if it is not. There's a few in the downtown area that are going to be changed with the project as well. I am somewhat concerned because bids have been just all over the place. The amount of the project we have listed here, this is for the design, engineering, and everything at approximately $1.8 million. The state contributes $300,000. In the off chance that we have bids come in above the estimate, in order for us to be able to change the project slightly. We're changing what the state considers as the project limits and the scope, because we are contributing much more funding than KDOT is. And that then will allow us to be able to negotiate with bidders and do what we need to do should bids be bad. I'm just planning on that based on history, recent history. So we're hopeful that things will go well. We also are planning to bid our annual overlay project that is funded from our street maintenance operating budget at the same time. That will help us to get some economies of scale, because a contractor will look at a whole lot more work all at once. This project is going to be right in the middle of everybody, and everybody will be annoyed with it, but it will be short-lived, hopefully during the summer. We'll do our best to make sure everybody is aware as we start construction where the work is going to occur, and keep people posted on timing and all of that, should we get to the point where we're ready to go ahead and build the project. So I would ask that you would approve the resolution that is supporting the funding for the project. You would approve the plans and specs. You would consider the resolution, and then setting the date and time for the bids, if you would just leave that up to my discretion as we work with KDOT on the final wording on their forms. Any questions?
No. So our next item is to consider a resolution finding advisable and authorizing the paving improvements.
We have a resolution.
You need to receive the plans and specifications.
Okay.
I move that we receive the plans and specifications for the pavement improvements on Main Street.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, item B is to consider a resolution finding advisable and authorizing the paving improvements.
That resolution number is I-1195.
I move to approve I-1195.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And on item C, would you like us to approve for you to be able to set the time?
Yes, or you could approve May 9th and, or I think is what we said, May 3rd, and allow me to change, which we do anyway, if we need to.
Okay.
Yeah, what she said.
Okay, so May 3rd, and Suzanne can change if she needs to.
Okay, I second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for May 3rd, and Suzanne can change if she needs to. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and item number 8, Chris or Kelly, the purchase of sale agreement with 21 Albemarle LLC for the sale of 9.9 acres at First Street and Oliver.
Yes, I'm going to start out, sir, and Chris and I will probably tag team this. We are very pleased to announce, excuse me, let me get my little map on the screen here. We are very pleased to announce that the City of Newton has sold some additional industrial property. It is located at the corner of Oliver and First Street, so this is right up here would be Park Aerospace right here at the airport. We are selling approximately 9.9 acres at $8,000 an acre, and please excuse me, I had a typo in the packet. It says $5,000 an acre, the actual sale price is $8,000 an acre. So please excuse me. The company is purchasing the property on behalf of Ben Franklin Crafts. There are approximately 160 Ben Franklin craft stores in the United States, and the company is looking to build a distribution center at this location, in addition to adding more brick and mortar stores in the region, and they are working to rebrand their online marketing. So Newton's proximity in the middle of the U.S. and ease of shipping back and forth to the coast makes this an ideal location for them. And then the attached PSA, which is a purchase sale agreement, is presented for your consideration this evening. Like I said, I mentioned it's 9.98 acres, so the total sales price would be approximately $79,840. The PSA does give the city a reversionary interest. Specifically, the company is required to construct a 40,000 square foot facility or larger pursuant to a building permit acquired prior to May 1, 2025. If they fail to do that, the city would have the option to repurchase the property at the cost equal to the purchase price. And I will defer to our esteemed city attorney for questions. On the
Kelly covered it all. This agreement has been signed by the purchaser, and it just waits your approval or feedback.
And I'm sorry, I believe I neglected to actually mention that. I'm struggling to say the name. It's Albemarle.
Albemarle.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, any questions? If not, we'll Item number A, we'll need a motion for that.
I move to approve item A.
I will second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. And a resolution number for B?
Would be G-1280.
Move that we approve G-1280.
Thank you, Rich. There's a motion to approve that. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, Suzanne, item number 9, Centennial Park Ball Field, to receive an update on the bids.
Okay, I was planning on this just to be an item to tell you how things went, but there's a little more to it, so bear with me. This project, as you know, we went out to bid last year for improvements to the ball fields, and the bids were too high, and this is a function of the Public Building Commission. If you recall, the Public Building Commission is the one that would do the improvements, and the funding would come through the Public Building Commission. So the Newton Rec Commission, the USD 373, and the city provide $1 million of funding that goes into the PBC to help fund recreation improvements. In this instance, the first priority is for artificial turf on Fisher Field to be replaced, and that's what started the whole process. Then we went through this process to, the project on the table was for swimming pool improvements and the ball fields. Swimming pool, we've got that one. We've got that one accomplished. Check that one off the list. Now we've got the ball fields. We bid it last year, it was high. We said, okay, let's redo some things and let's bid it again this year. So we changed the project slightly. Originally, we were looking at improvements to Kenny Williams Field, Gillespie Field, and a new field called CR2 that would be south of Klein Scott, and then a few improvements to an additional field, CR3. We changed everything because we could not fund all of it, as we found out during the bidding process last year. So this project that we bid on April 5th was the improvements to Kenny Williams Field, and then a brand new field, CR2, and then power and parking for multiple food truck area, because remember, we don't have a concession stand there, we just have an open air spot, but we're providing a little bit of concrete and some power so that we could bring food trucks in when we'd have big events. Because by adding CR2, that's the 4th field, so that we would have a 4-field complex if we wanted to be able to hold tournaments and things. The CR2, the new field that we are looking at would be able to, would be versatile. It could be used for baseball and it could be used for high school softball. And the school district would like to get high school softball playing at the same facility as baseball, because they split their staff. Parents that come from out of town want to all be in the same area because they tend to have kids that are playing both girls and boys. And we wanted to be able to have 4 fields for a complex. So we bid the project. The bids came in over the estimate again. And I have provided for you in the packet a ton of information about all of this. If you recall, when we looked at the project with the PBC originally, the PBC will be bonding the project, and the NRC and city were not contributing anything additional to the project. It was just PBC funds that we contributed through our mill. Before we went to bid, the NRC decided that they would provide an additional $300,000 towards the project. So that would be cash from the NRC that would go towards the project. So I've accounted for that in all of the information that I've provided you. We had one bidder, and it was the same bidder that was the low bidder in the first time around. And that's not uncommon that you would have that happen. And the bidder was Conco Inc. They are out of Wichita. And you have a bid tab that is in the memo as well. And you also have the full accounting of the project that I have showed. After meeting with the PBC on Friday, we looked at all of these options. And the things that I would like to remind you about is not only do we have improvements to Kenny Williams, a new CR2 field, we have parking for multiple food trucks that could serve all of these facilities. We have a 4-field ball complex, but we have a quality of life improvement that has been asked for by many young families that live in Newton and for others that are coming to Newton. So in order for us to make this project work, the city would need to provide additional cash. The low bid from Conco was at 1.5 million roughly. It's a little bit more than that, and it's shown here. The base bid previously was 1.9, so we were able to cut $400,000 out of the project, right? But 1.5 million is still higher than what we can fund for the project. You see the columns that have all the different colors here in the spreadsheet, and the middle column says low bid 4/5/2022. So total construction contract 1.5 million, and then we have design costs, and we have some inspection costs. Then the green columns, the PBC funding was planned to be 1.125 million. The NRC is paying $300,000 cash. I negotiated with the low bidder, and we found some ways that we could try and cut a few other items out of the project and be able to maybe fund a little bit different way. Oh, the thing that I have forgot to mention is in the process of cutting the project slightly, we also did some things with our in-house staff. There's quite a bit of fill material that needs to be placed here. And if you recall, we were taking that from the East First Street property that we recently sold, just east of Prairie View. We moved all that dirt to Centennial so it would be available. We utilized city crews to do that. So it's available on site. We also are going to be mixing in some Class A sludge that we have been making from the wastewater treatment plant that is like potting soil. It's a process, it's a pilot project. We're going to be able to use that on this project. So all of those things combined help us to get to the 1.5 million on the base bid. The negotiated low bid, once I started talking to the contractor, they said they would come down off of the 1.508727 to 1,475,000. So that's basically cutting into their overhead. They're willing to come down. Then we looked at a deduct of the construction fencing, which because this is a pretty active park, we said, okay, you're gonna have to do fencing around, and they had elected to put chain link fence up for construction fencing. And we're gonna remove that and just use some signage, and I think we'll be okay. The other deduct change was we looked at the irrigation that we had specified with our consultant, and we are going to switch from Watertronics, I believe, over to Rainbird, and we believe we can deduct 25,000 there. And then we also looked at another deduct option, which would move the substantial completion to September 22nd. I am not recommending that we take that because one of the other changes that we made in this process was that NRC and city staff are going to do the seeding on the project. And we know that if we want the fields to be available for play next summer, we need to be able to have this ready to seed by December 2nd. And that's the date that we have in the bid documents now. So we did not take a deduct for changing to September 2nd to September 22nd. The other deduct was to remove bollards that would be on the project on some of the pathways. They're removable bollards that would lie down so that we could drive vehicles in to do maintenance. We will just go ahead and install some of those ourselves. And so that was approximately $12,000 deduct. That got us down to 1.412, so $1,412,998.43 for the contract with Conco. Then you take out design costs, inspection, you get to a total project budget of the 1.6. The funding available, the 1.125 million from PBC, $300,000 cash from the NRC. We're short approximately 200,000. And I am suggesting that you have a couple of options, but the option that makes some sense, when I look at the costs, the individual line item costs, we have just under $200,000 in irrigation costs. And it's slightly under that. Those, because that is water, it's irrigation, we could utilize some cash reserves that we have in the water utility to pay for the irrigation system there, because it is water related and that would be appropriate, correct? If the city contributes the 200,000, then we are just barely over our budget, and we would be able to use that if we have any change orders. Okay, I've talked a lot. Do you have questions on this?
Yeah, I've heard from actually a handful of people, and to be fair, several people, I think, more than maybe usual. And there's some concerns about whether or not this is the best use of, if we're going to spend 1.6 million or 1.413, if this is the best use for the money out there. I know that turf has been brought up in the conversation. I know that the way the fields being out there and the layout of the fields, the improvements to Kenny Williams Field. So one of the things that I wondered about that is I couldn't answer the questions. I really don't know. So I said, have you had a chance to be a part of this planning process? And the answer I got from everyone that I talked to was no. And I'm just wondering if we have maybe not done this the best way possible, because the people that actually utilize the fields for baseball I don't think are at the table having this conversation with us. And so I can't pretend that I know what looks good. I was out there the other night and I was watching a game on Gillespie Field, and with the beautiful grass, it was wonderful, except it was really cold. But the field looked wonderful. But I know that since my own son, this is my first interaction with baseball this year, their games have been canceled on a couple occasions now already because they're wet, where they could have played somewhere else that had turf and they could have played. And so I just wonder, turf is the new thing. And if we go with grass, I just have to ask myself, in 4 or 5 years, are we going to even be able to host tournaments anyways? Because one weather event and the whole tournament's done. And so I'm concerned that people are going to look at an opportunity for tournaments on a weekend, and they're going to go, well, let's not go to Newton, because if it rains, we're out for the weekend. We must a tournament when we could have went over there. And what I have learned, what I do know, is that baseball families are very committed to tournaments and schedules, and they're going to go where they can play. And I'm just wondering if spending 1.6 million now isn't better to say, can we do something in a year? I don't know what that time, a year. I don't have any idea what turf costs. I don't see anything on here that talks about how much turf cost. I guess what I'm getting at is I'd be in favor of us bringing some people to the table to have this conversation that are active participants in the Newton Baseball Club, Newton High School Baseball, and whatever other teams there could be that play in. I'm afraid that we're going to miss some kids in the future that opt to go play somewhere else because they do want to play college ball. And we really don't have the facilities that says Newton has a great baseball program. I'm thinking about all those things in my head at one time
Okay.
as we go through this.
I would like to respond.
Sure.
We did pull in multiple users of the ball fields when we started this whole process. And
When was that?
when we started prior to the first bid.
Okay.
And we made all kinds of lists of things that everybody wanted. We had a set dollar amount of what we could afford, and that was
Sure.
the 1.12 million. The NRC works with these people all the time. They're the recreation arm,
Sure.
if you will, of the city. And they helped decide what things we would and wouldn't do. We also have representatives from the Newton Baseball Club that serve on the Public Building Commission. And they voted to move this project forward as you see it.
That's not my conversation today with them, though. So
Okay.
I'm reporting. I don't, like I said, I'm not.
Okay.
I think the field looks nice out there. If all the fields looked as nice as Gillespie, I think it would be a beautiful complex, right? I know that's difficult to do. That's not the conversation I had today, though, with people today specifically. And so, I don't know. I feel like we're spending 1.6 million on something that is probably not really the best thing we could do. And I know the best thing isn't always what we can afford, but I'm also not a fan of spending 1.6 million if it's not in 4 or 5 years from now going to be beneficial to us.
But
We-
that's,
There is a group that would like to have artificial turf, and artificial turf was discussed a whole lot. But artificial turf for Fisher Field we're looking at $425,000 when
Right.
we get ready to replace that. You got to have a lot of money in the coffers to be able to put artificial turf down.
Yeah.
And I know that there's some of the baseball folks that want artificial turfs specifically for Klein Scott because of the reasons you mentioned. And then it was mentioned, could we do it at Kenny Williams? Part of this project, why we are doing improvements to Kenny Williams is to regrade it so that it isn't standing in water if we have a rain event, it's so that it will drain off. CR2 is a brand-new field, so we're trying to get it graded so that it doesn't do the same. Gillespie is not having improvements because we had to cut the project down. It was planned to be regraded as well, and that's something that we hoped we will get to as we move forward. You know what, I'm not the only one that worked on this project. I just happen to be the one that brings it
Yeah,
to you.
I understand.
But this
And the
isn't
Public Building Commission approved it unanimously at their meeting last Friday morning at 7 a.m. and asked that I bring it to you, asking for this project to be approved if the city would contribute the additional $200,000.
So it's a community project, it's not just a city.
Well, it depends on who you ask, to be honest. I mean, community, yeah, there's some people, but I had conversations today with people, I won't say who they are right here, but guaranteed, I had conversations with people today that felt like they've worked on this for a long time too, and what they were hoping to get out of this is not what's on the thing. And I didn't have anybody call me and tell me that they were really excited to see what was moving forward. I had people call me and tell me that they were not excited to see what was moving forward because they don't feel like the people that are using the fields that are there every single day, a couple times a week, whatever the case may be, that it's not what they were hoping for or wanting. And so
What would you estimate, just ballpark, of if we were using artificial turf, what the additional cost would be?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I'd have to,
I mean, if
we'd have to get some
if the
estimates.
football
If
stadium.
Brian was here, he could answer that. I don't know.
And Clint, in your conversations with the folks that were talking to you, are they talking only the infield, or are they talking the infield and the outfield?
well, one of them specifically mentioned, and I think this person is pretty knowledgeable in this, based off of what they've done in the past. They said that they would be satisfied if there was an infield. I mean, they felt like that was a step in the right direction. That the infield tends to be the reason why we can't play when it's wet. So, and not even in a rain event, a post-rain event. So, that if we had an infield turf, then at least the outfield is more manageable than raw dirt is to play in when it's wet.
If we were going to add artificial turf to this, right now, the cost for the seeding is being taken out, and it was going to be covered in operating budgets for park and NRC. So it's not in the project. It's going to have under drain system, and it's going to have to be graded. So what we're looking at is an additional cost to the 1.6 to have the artificial turf.
Yeah, and I understand that. I just think doing it right is better than just.
I don't
spending money.
disagree. You
Yeah.
guys just have to give me direction as to how much we're willing to fund.
But it's not like it couldn't be done down the road.
Well, at the expense of $1.4 million today. Yeah.
But you're not.
Oh, sure,
throwing-
it could be
you're
done-
not
it
throwing
could be
the
done next
entire-
year.
You're not throwing the entire 1.7 out there if you come back with turf in 4 or 5 years.
No, you're not. It's a significant amount, though, if we went, I mean, if you chose to do turf today versus doing turf in the future, I mean, waiting, you're putting a lot of money. I mean, irrigation alone is $168,600.
Yes, and if we were only going to put turf down on the infield, we would
yeah,
still
still
need
need
to
some
do
on the
irrigation
yeah.
in the outfield. So we might take some of that irrigation cost out, absolutely, to put down turf.
Would these people that are having all these conversations with you, would they be willing to call Suzanne?
Yeah, I'm happy.
have
I know-
to sit- I'm happy
conversations
to
with
sit
her?
down with
I know one of them for sure would be. Yeah.
One, how many, so may I ask
One.
how many conversations?
I had
you-
2 just today, and in the past month, I can think of 5 people. 2 of those people being that, so 5 total in the past 3 to 4 weeks that I've had conversations
five,
with.
then.
And I can think all but one of them would be willing to come and talk, so 4. Yeah.
Well, I think if someone's not willing to come and talk,
I can tell you these people have worked on this though, and they feel like it's not going to go anywhere.
but if they worked on it and they're not willing to come and talk, then they can't really say anything. I mean, if you really want something, then you should.
Well, they
be
did say
willing-
something though. They said something to me. Does that not matter?
Well, I think if you're able to give them all the figures, all of the turf information, if you can.
We don't have the turf information
I
to give
know,
them.
but if you're able to, if you get that and you're able to to work that out with them instead of her doing it, then at least provide them with the information that they need to have in order to.
Well, we got to get the turf numbers before we can do that.
Yeah.
I would be
We could
interested in
get some
seeing a bid that,
estimates on turf, if that's what you would like.
I mean, I would. I don't know if everybody else feels that
It's
way.
going to be an increase in the overall cost.
Sure.
Because we've kind of made this bare bones. And are we looking at turf on all fields or just the new field and Kenny Williams? Because the new field and Kenny Williams are the only two that we're doing anything to right now.
Yeah.
And so then we'll have turf on those two fields and no artificial turf on Klein Scott. And there will be some,
Just in 4 or 5 years, is anybody going to be interested in playing in dirt fields anymore when all of the communities around us are building turf fields? And I would suspect the answer to that is no.
yeah.
Therefore-
Please don't think I'm not
Oh,
arguing
I'm not.
against
No, it's
it.
not you, Suzanne.
I
It's
just
just
got to have
that
the funds to do it.
you're the one that has the money, and you're the one. I mean, not you don't have the money, but you're the one that is putting these numbers together. This is not directed toward you. I'm working through this as we're talking. Yeah, and I don't mean anything bad toward you. Please don't think
No,
that.
no.
And I think if I told you who these people were, you would know. I mean, you could probably guess. I don't want to say their name tonight because I did not ask them if it was okay if I spoke
Yeah.
on their behalf. But I'm happy to get them back here, though, to satisfy you, Kathy, if that would make you happy with that. But
Yeah,
I'm
think-
happy
I
to
think
sit
so.
down
This
with
is-
whoever.
yeah.
I just need to know, is there consensus from the group that you're willing to fund more than what we have now? Because it's going to take more dollars. Because we've really stripped this down to kind of bare bones here. So it's going to take an additional cost
And-
for artificial turf.
And that additional cost would likely have to come from us. I cannot
Yes.
speak for the NRC or for the USD, but we know
Right.
the PBC is maxed out, so that additional funding would have to come from us.
Has the school had any conversation in this? Have they been a part of it?
As far as additional funding,
Or just what they were hoping to find in this, consider they use it probably the most?
the NRC has discussed it with the school, yes.
Okay. But
And
this,
at the original meetings, yes, they were all there.
Okay.
And they always will list artificial turf.
sure.
There are competing interests in the groups too.
Well, I'm
because-
hearing from
Yeah.
one then. I'll say that. The other people haven't called me.
So I have a question about scheduling, about timelines. So let's just say that we would put this off for 2 weeks or a month while you compile some artificial turf numbers. Then to hit the deadlines of, what was it, September the 2nd,
Yeah, we won't hit it.
it's not going to happen. So then that means,
And they also need to know to lock in pricing on several items too. I mean, that's just the way the construction is working right now.
so
We can postpone and we can go through this again. I know that we aren't going to hit that date because it's going to postpone all of the decisions around as we go.
But go ahead, Leroy.
no,
No, you go.
So, just because I live in this world, and I know somewhat of how this goes, I'm one, I've heard from some of those folks too, in the past about this situation. I also know that in a deal like this, there is no way that we're going to satisfy everybody.
That's right.
It's not going to happen.
That's right.
At the expense of, because I think you're right, there are some hardcore baseball, I don't want to call them they're very avid baseball fans. And they have their families that are involved in this, and they like to play on the best, and that's just the way it is. I get it. I also know, I guess I'm one, I don't like this, but I'm one who, I want to move it forward.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do the additional 200,000, but I would also like you to get some, I would like to move forward with this tonight, but I also want you to get some prices for some artificial turf. I want that number, whether it's 200,000, 400,000, 600,000. Then I would like to bring these folks into the table,
Yeah.
but meanwhile, let's get this thing going. Let's bring them into the table and say, okay, here's the number. Help us figure out where the money's going to come from. Okay? And I'm guessing the sources aren't exactly, I mean, they may not know, but then they're involved. And then they feel like they have the skin in the game, so to speak.
So here's this, okay, so then if we do that, which if that's what the commission decides, that's what we decide tonight. if we decide to move forward tonight, there's no point in getting the numbers for turf because we've already made the decision to go with grass that's going to be planted.
I think the numbers still have value.
For what? We're
Information.
wasting somebody's time if we're not going to do it, asking for bids. And bringing all those people back if we're not going to even entertain that option this year.
Entertain the option of the
Of turf.
artificial turf.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're going to, if we make the decision tonight to move forward with grass, and if I knew, or if I found out later that that decision had already been made, but yet I'm being asked to provide a bid for turf, I want it like that. I can appreciate what you're saying, Leroy. I want it like that as a company or as an individual to be asked to do that. So I just think if we make the decision tonight, we got to move forward with it, and so be it. But I don't think that the argument of adding additional fields for tournament play is not a good one if the fields that we have don't match what tournament level players want to the tune of what could be 500 to 600 players on a weekend
Right.
in a baseball tournament. They're going to go to Goddard if they're already driving here from wherever, I don't know, Kansas City, something, maybe they're not driving from anywhere. They're going to go to Goddard.
Or
that has
Bueller.
the new-
I've
Yeah.
been there. They have really nice fields, and they are artificial turf. In order for us to provide the artificial turf, though, we just have to know that the budget is going to have to increase.
Yeah, yeah.
I am for moving the project forward. I know that we've been working on this for a long time.
Well,
And it wasn't that people were not heard on artificial turf, but there was a lot of discussion, and you have to pick and choose the things that you're going to do.
Sure.
And
I just don't think we're going to get tournaments here, and that's what we're justifying moving forward with this forest for tournaments if we go back with grass again.
I think tournaments is one of the items. I think overall quality of life improvements for additional fields and having softball and baseball on
The
Linwood.
softball one is nice. Yeah, that is true.
That's a biggie.
I mean, it hits 4 of the 5 listed there, just quality of life, so.
I'm not so sure I'm willing to say all or nothing though on the artificial turf, even if we move forward with this tonight. To say, and maybe that artificial turf isn't going to be put in this year, but the following year to put that artificial, but first to get a number to see what we're shooting for. And yeah, the prices will probably go up in a year, but at least we have a ballpark of what that amount's gonna be if we add that a year from now.
Ballpark, I heard what you did
Well-
there.
Yeah. No pun
What I would like
Here's
is,
an
we can ask
option.
for a cursory. We don't have to actually send out a full RFP bid. We could just ask.
No.
for
I am going to
numbers.
get you a range price.
Right.
And I can probably have it tomorrow. I just don't have that up here. Lots of numbers, as you see tonight. What you could do, if you are wanting to move forward with this project, one thing that you could look at doing artificial turf on is Klein Scott Field. It's not a part of this project.
Sure.
And then we could, because you're going to be adding funds from somewhere to do the project. Now, there's some of the irrigation that we wouldn't want to do if we were going to do, say, CR2, if it was going to, the brand-new field was going to be artificial turf, then we wouldn't put a bunch of the irrigation in there. And so that would be an offset for the cost. But what I'm saying is if you wanted to build what we are proposing now and then look at artificial turf on Klein Scott, you could.
Is there going to be any kind of penalty if we move forward with this tonight as it's written and irrigation and stuff for the new field if we decide in the next 2 months that we do want to fund turf at the new field or it?
We're
Obviously,
going to have a bunch of irrigation materials that we're going to purchase.
okay, so that would be the penalty in it is that we may have material we can't use anymore.
Well, we can
So-
use it somewhere.
So by giving us a range of costs for an artificial turf, are you gonna go, or are you thinking that you would price each one of the 4 fields of what that might cost? Or, I guess that's what I'm thinking that we should do, just to see what those costs are. And then maybe we can have the discussion, if we move forward, have the discussion of if Klein Scott is the most logical one to put artificial turf in, and then, zero in on that, whatever that amount is. I don't know. I don't know what, in order of priority, which one
What if you, yeah, well, I don't, you're going to have differing opinions.
I know.
on
I have a
who
feeling that
gets-
Klein Scott would probably be priority.
I think so too, because that's, you
Plain
know,
Scott would be
the
priority,
level,
and
right?
it doesn't have anything to do with this project that
Right.
we're proposing tonight.
Understood.
Now, what you could do, we have some other items on the agenda. We could table this, give me some time, and make a couple of phone calls just to get you some ballpark numbers.
We need Denise's drums.
We're heavy on that ballpark.
Yeah,
are.
we're wearing that one out.
Yeah.
You can
If
push-
that's something the majority is considering. I'm saying
Table
table
for 30
item
minutes.
9 and do some of these other ones and come back to number 9,
She'll,
if it's something you're considering.
she'll get her speed dial out.
Well, I will tell you who I'm going to call. I'm going to call Brian, and he has his finger on what other people are paying for artificial turf for fields.
So then we would push this off for 2 weeks.
No.
Not suggesting
30
that.
30
yet.
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
15
Oh,
minutes.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm saying,
So you need-
while you
okay.
do items 11, 12, 13, 14.
Okay.
I favor that approach.
You need a motion to table?
No.
Okay.
We'll just return to it.
So, okay.
Okay, well, let me just say, Suzanne, thank you for your work on it.
Yes.
I know it
Yeah.
seems like a lot of our projects drag on and on and on, and I know it's nice when we can move forward with something, just advocating that we do what's best with the citizens' money. And I know everybody's opinion is different, so mine's different from
I
Kathy or anybody else, so,
100% agree with you
Yeah.
that we want to do what is right with the citizens' money.
yeah. And gets us the most bang for our buck in the future, so that's all. Thank you. So we'll look forward to you making a few phone calls and seeing what you can
Okay.
find out tonight. All right, item number 10 is to consider the issuance of a request for proposal for property repairs and cleanup at 1204 North Walnut.
Okay, this project, or this property has, hang on, let me get to my item here. This property has went through the environmental control process. The city has received multiple complaints regarding the condition of the property. This is on the northeast corner of 11th and Walnut. We've got an aerial picture there, and then a whole lot of pictures that were taken on Thursday or Friday of last week. There's just a lot of stuff sitting out here. In October of 2019, after going through the entire environmental court process, this property was brought into compliance. Then, a year later, the property was again in disrepair. Had several code violations, including nuisance conditions and inoperable vehicles, off-street parking, storing lots of things in the right-of-way and all over the property. The problems were not abated. We sent this property to court with for filing on February 4th of 2021 for an administrative hearing. Then in the fall of last year, the court ordered cleanup of the property. I provided you a copy of that. We are prepared to send out requests for bids for cleanup of the property. We are not doing anything to the structure. It's only to clean up the property. And we'd go through a competitive bidding process like we have done in the past for the required work. The city budget would have to pay for the cleanup, and then the cost of the project would be filed as a lien against the property. If you are in favor, we would ask that you direct us to move forward with obtaining bids to perform the work that has been ordered by the court. And then once we have those costs, we'll bring them back to you for consideration.
Well, I would move forward. I would move that we move forward with bids to perform this work.
I second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, item number 11 is received an update on the Ice House mural. Kelly.
Yes, sir. I am, again, pinch hitting tonight for Rebecca, so I'm wearing lots of hats tonight. So we just wanted to provide you an update on this particular project. We know it's been of great interest to the community. You may recall last October, the commission approved sending a letter of support to the Newton Murals and Art Group in support of a Newton flag mural that would be located at 414 North Oak. This is the property that is historically known as the Ice House. This is the project, hold on, we'll come right back to it. It's actually going to be on the northwest side of the building. This is what you see looking from the station platform, like if you're at riding Amtrak or BN or from behind City Hall back here. So it will be on this portion of the building here. And so this was part of our continuing revitalization efforts and also to help mark the community's 150th birthday this year. Again, the project is on private property, but the commission had agreed that since a lot of our Amtrak passengers come through at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning, it would be incredibly beneficial if the project was lit. And you all had agreed that once they received funding for the project, we would agree to pay for solar lighting that would be installed on the roof of the building down, so that partially for safety reasons and partially because it's right up against the tracks and BNSF's right-of-way. This is the project that has been endorsed and designed by the group. It is fancy and tie-dyed and also patterned off the flag. Our only request to them, again, was private property, but our only request to them was please incorporate the new flag, the trains and grains, and also Newton in our incorporation date as part of the 150th. They are looking to start the project as soon as weather's going to permit, maybe as soon as they were hoping they might even be done in time for our June 150th downtown celebration. So we had estimated the lighting would be approximately $8,000 to $10,000, depending on the size of it and like how many fixtures and things we're going to need. So we just wanted to provide you an update. No action necessary this evening. If you are still in favor of going forward with the lighting as we previously verbally agreed to, Chris and I will draft you an agreement with Newton Murals and Arts and probably the property owner as well for who's going to maintain it going forward, all those kinds of things. So we will bring that to you at your next meeting if you are amenable. And we are so thankful for this.
You need a head nod or?
Murals group. Yeah, just a head nod
go
telling
for
me
it.
you want us to bring the agreement back next meeting. So
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
do you want an actual motion?
No, it's perfect.
Okay, perfect, great. Thank you very much.
Item number 12 is an executive session. Chris.
Got a motion for you. I'm thinking about 20 minutes, so maybe
Okay.
8:45.
Okay. Somebody want to move us into that?
I move that the city commission recess into executive session to receive legal advice from counsel. The justification for closing the meeting is to consult with the city attorney to discuss matters privileged under the attorney-client relationship, and the time and place at which the open meeting shall resume are 8:45 p.m. right here at City Hall in the third floor conference room.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And there will be business after this as well.
Yes.
Our next item of business is to consider an amendment to the purchase and sell agreement with GAF to extend the buyer's due diligence period. And Chris is going to take this.
And I'll just frame it up for the benefit of the public. This item pertains to certain property, 230 acres, that the city obtained an option to purchase at the KLP from Tyndall. Subsequent to that, the city entered into a PSA to sell that property to GAF. Per the PSA, they're afforded what's called the due diligence period, where they can inspect the property, make sure the property fits their needs. We're in that due diligence period. It was initially set to expire in January of '22. We expired it to the end of this month. There is now a request to further extend it into December. And as you recall, our option with Tyndall goes through the calendar year. So this would be approximately 2 weeks prior to that option expiring. So what you have is an amendment to the PSA. That is the only term that it changes. It changes the due diligence period to go to December. And I think I noted in the memo, that doesn't foreclose on GAF's ability to close earlier or to alternatively walk away earlier. But it does give them the option to continue their due diligence into December. I would stand for any questions. That is what that amendment accomplishes.
Any questions for Chris? If not, we could take a motion to extend or not extend that.
Well, I will move that we extend that.
And that would be through the approval of the amendment that's in the agenda packet.
There's a motion to extend. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, item number 14 is review the law enforcement advisory panel ordinance. And Kelly.
Yes, Commissioners, at your last meeting, we brought up at the end of the meeting that you guys would like to take a look at the law enforcement advisory panel created by Ordinance in 2006. That ordinance and the panel actually has two main purposes when the ordinance was created. It was basically to advise on law enforcement practices that might be my brain's been blank, sorry, racially motivated, or complaints that might be racially motivated. And then also to advise the city manager and the police chief on any other items in law enforcement policies, procedures, those kinds of things. Currently, the ordinance allows for 9 members. And after discussing this last time, we did a little bit of checking around with now the former members and got some feedback from some of them, not the most recent ones even, but others that had been on the panel in the past. We did find out that although the city was not formally notified, 8 of the 9 members have resigned. And so at this point in time, we don't have a staff member assigned to them for administrative purposes. Of course, we support them however we can. PD, specifically Lieutenant Yoder, works with them quite regularly, as well as Chief. And so you guys had wanted to bring this back to the surface. A lot of things have changed since 2006, and this is a great opportunity to take a look at what the ordinance allows for or does not allow for, and this is an opportunity to update it. You guys could make some amendments, you could make changes, you could make very specific changes to the existing ordinance, you could dissolve the ordinance, and we would bring you back a new ordinance with specific clauses included. I know one of the things we heard over time was that it was difficult for them, as such a large group of 9 people, to find a time when they could all meet and or get a quorum in place. I know over the years they tried morning and evening and lunchtime, and I also think they have met in the past at different intervals. Sometimes they met monthly, sometimes they met quarterly, and then of course they would always be gracious and meet as needed. So this is an opportunity. You said you wanted to have this discussion, and so we just wanted to provide that to you, and Chief and I would stand for any questions you have specifically, kind of the overview.
What's the direction to move forward from tonight? Do we need to get our own copy of an ordinance, kind of look through it individually and see what maybe suggestions we would change to it, or
Yeah.
what's best?
I would just say, I mean, the statutes give you a great deal of range in terms of what you'd like to accomplish with this advisory panel.
Yeah, I know that I mean, looking through it myself already, I had an interest in changing some of the verbiage of its purpose but then also the number of members and the required meeting times, I think, to make it more flexible on how many times a year they met. So I don't have an ordinance in front of me to specifically say which numbers
And I
those were. but
apologize, I
that's
thought, I
okay.
was having
We've
real
had
bad
them,
tech
yeah.
difficulties the other day, and I thought
been
I
a
had
long
it in the
day.
packet.
It's
My
okay.
apologies. Yeah. So yes, to your point, sir, specifically Section 3 says purpose and functions, and it says LEAP shall perform the following functions: to advise and assist in policy development, education, and community outreach, and communications related to racial or other bias-based policing by law enforcement officers and agencies under the jurisdiction of the city, and to advise and assist the city manager and chief of police on other issues related to law enforcement, including community relations, police operations, educational programs, and other related matters. So that's how it stands now.
Sure.
I think
I would have a
definitely,
question for the chief. How many cases or complaints since this ordinance has been in place from 2006? How many complaints did you deal with this group?
Well, in the last couple of years, they, when the group was meeting, their primary concern is there was no complaint process in case it was brought to that there was a racial complaint about an officer singling somebody out because of their race or whatever. And there was no specific formal complaint process. So in the last couple of years, we developed that process. And it can be done, and it can be handed over through our water billing. We've passed on this sheet off complaint form to various different places within the city on their website, in hand on City Hall at our police department. So there's several different vehicles that they can get that complaint to us so we can look into it. So we've accomplished that. So since then, we've had zero
Okay.
formal complaints at all. So.
Okay. And so when I was reading through this, and I really, in all honesty, I know you don't have some of this in front of you, and we have a gentleman sitting out here who's been waiting very patiently, so maybe we can bring this back. But I just have a quick question.
Sure.
As I read the goals, so these folks on the board are to advise and assist, provide comments and recommendation. So where do they get their training and their ability to advise and assist? I mean, what qualifications do they possess or to do so?
Well, I think that's part of what the vision, as you five would see this particular panel
Okay.
to go. Where do you see it to go? What kind of qualifications would you like to see on this panel to make an educated conversation about? Because that's what it needs to be. It's a conversation about what they perceive from the community. If a complaint has been lodged and been brought forward to them, we can sit down and have that conversation. And I think that's what the vision, you folks need to decide what you want on that panel. That's the primary. And what kind of qualifications that they will bring to the table.
Or representation of specific groups,
Very
whether
good.
it's. I
Different,
mean,
a wide variety of groups,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So it might be technical certifications. I know, like for Planning Commission and Historic Preservation, we say the board must be made up of one architect, one engineer, one landscape planner. I mean, we have some specific qualifications. I don't know that we would say it needs to be that specific for you, but maybe representation of specific communities or demographics within the community. I know you guys had talked in the past, like I said, Chief had talked to some previous members who gave some good feedback, and they said really 9 was just a really unwieldy number of people to try and coordinate schedules and get together. So, you could consider going to 5 or even 7 if you would like. You could have some ex officio membership, like myself or Chief or someone from the law department.
we could have organizations do an appointment on behalf of the organizations. Maybe NCRJ could place a member on the board, or our mental health or hospital community could place a member on the board.
Maybe someone from the religious community.
Right.
Representation, maybe, like formerly the Ministerial Alliance. I mean, I think you have options, and we are happy to draft up some things for you to look at officially. We just want to get that conversation started and start working on that internally so we
Yeah.
could bring you something.
I think that's a good start. I think the other thing that, and I did find it online to pull it up, Section 3 on A or B, I don't know how to reword it. I'm not the one to write the words on it, but in the policy development, education, and community outreach, I think it goes well beyond the racial profiling, just to include minority communities in general, special needs, those who maybe what we've seen across the country feel sometimes are targeted for whatever reason. So I think that if we just make sure that the verbiage extends beyond racial profiling in A.
I think that's what that amendment in 20 at least attempted to accomplish. I think it initially may have said racial, but then we added the or other bias-based policing. So does that fit what you're asking for?
Oh, possibly.
trying to
I
broaden
don't,
the
I'm
scope.
sorry, I don't see the amendment here, so that's okay.
Sorry.
We should have provided a.
I'm so sorry. Please.
That's,
on me.
no, that's right.
But yeah, I think that was the idea back in 20, in terms
Okay.
of some of those tweaks we made was to expand that scope. But, I mean, we could tweak it further, to your point.
Yeah, maybe can you email us that amendment, the ordinance and the
Yes,
amendment?
absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that would help. All right, I was looking at one that, yeah, says
Yes.
2006 on it, so. Well, I think that's some direction to move forward.
Definitely.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
I know it's getting late in the evening.
You're fine. We can do it. No problem.
Yeah. Is there anything anybody else wants to discuss? If not, I feel good. We can move on to the next item. Okay. Mennonite Housing. Thank you for sitting for a long evening with us. I hope you ate dinner before you came. Item number 15, Chris, the first thing is consider a termination and release of revisionary interest.
Yeah, just two quick items, and thank you. The first is a termination and release of reversionary interest. As you recall, so just to tee it up, I guess, for the audience, city has been involved with Mennonite Housing for some time in terms of negotiating this land sale for their development. We are now close to closing, what, tomorrow, potentially, within the next, pending these last couple documents. So the first is a termination and release of reversionary interest. This is not to be confused with the reversionary interest that's in the PSA that requires the build-out. That still stays in play. This is a reversionary interest that pertains to the original plat of the property. It's since been replatted. There's an interpretation that that reversionary interest goes away with the replatting. However, their title company would like something that shows that. We're still working on some of the final details of the language of the termination and release. So if you're okay with that principle to release any reversionary right that was in the prior plat, I would ask for that motion, and then I can work with Byron's team and we can finalize the language on what that looks like. So if you're okay with that, it would be a motion to approve a termination and release of reversionary interest subject to approval by the city attorney.
I make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, oh, was there? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, and the second part of this is consider a final settlement statement.
That's the document I just passed out, and quick shout out to the city clerk for the late item. That's totally on me providing it late, but Denise is super good with getting everything in there. So final settlement statement, that's the other thing that we just need to approve. It's consistent with the PSA. I think the city sets to take roughly $43,000 in compensation for the sale of the property. And again, the closing should go forward once we get these final documents in. And I think Byron can stand for any questions or provide a timeline in terms of the project and where they're going. But if you don't have any questions for me, I'd ask you to approve the final settlement statement.
Do you have anything for us, Byron?
We just mentioned that, like Chris said, if these documents are signed, then we would anticipate closing on the land purchase tomorrow. And we're working towards the closing to actually be able to start on construction, possibly next week in terms of closing on basically a second closing that allows us to get funding in to start on the construction side. So if everything proceeds well here tonight and we can close tomorrow, then possibly we'll close to be able to start construction by the end of next week. And then construction could actually start possibly by the end of this month. And you may have already heard there has been some discussion about a possible groundbreaking event that right now it looks like could be in about 2 weeks. So that's a little bit of the timeline that we're looking for here. We're really excited about getting going finally with this.
And thank you, sir. I'm glad you reminded me. We were emailing back and forth with a group of individuals, not just us, but, you know, people from Federal Home Loan and others, KHRC, that would like to come to that groundbreaking. I know tentatively we were looking at Tuesday, the 26th, sir.
That's
Is that
correct.
right?
Yeah, probably in the morning.
Probably in the morning, or maybe like 11-ish maybe, so that those folks coming from Topeka or other places might be able to drive in that morning. So if you guys would just kind of hold, is that firmed up enough? We can ask them to hold that for now? That
It's
date and
still a
time?
little bit tentative,
Sure,
but
sure.
it looks pretty good right now.
Yeah, if you'll just put a hold on that morning for us and
Okay,
for now.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll need a motion to accept this.
I move to accept.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, we'll return to the ballpark conversation, and Suzanne, were you able to find anything out?
Well,
It's,
yeah.
I mean, it's okay if you haven't. Also.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
also-
there's a lot of factors here. I talked to Brian briefly. Things that I want to mention that we went through when determining the turf for Fisher Field. Not all turfs are created equal. And we went through quite a process determining what type of turf to use and what companies can supply the turf that's going to last and that's not, if you get something that is subpar, you can end up causing knee injuries and trips for kids that are playing or adults, if you were talking about Klein Scott. So I think that's an important thing to remember, because if somebody just Googles up, how much does it cost to turf a baseball field? You may get anything from, 10,000 to $1 million. And it does depend on how well you do it and how many people are going to have to utilize it. If you are looking at infields for more youth fields, I think you're probably looking around a $200,000 mark, plus you're going to have to do some under drain work that could be another $100,000. But some of your costs for irrigation are going to swap out on that. It just depends on your size that you're looking at, the size of the field. Are we doing infield? Are we doing infield and outfield? What kind of turf are we doing? And for our baseball community, what field is it that they would want to look at? Which fields for turf, if we were going to consider turf? And I know there is going to be several that would be in favor of Klein Scott over others. Granted, those that want to do tournament play, you're going to need a field for some of the younger kids to be able to play on too. And so you might not be looking at, say, Klein Scott. You'd be looking at maybe the new field or looking at Kenny Williams or Gillespie. And so in that scenario, I mean, Klein Scott's going to cost significantly more because it's a much larger field. And so you might be looking around 500,000 because, again, you have to prepare the subgrade because it needs to drain. Artificial turf, and a lot of people know this and a lot of people don't, but artificial turf is kind of like a shag carpet, but the carpet is made out of synthetic plastic. And it's really, really tall, and what you see from the surface is significantly shorter than what's really in place, because then there are these little bitty rubber pellets that are down in this synthetic grass-looking stuff that holds those fibers up. And you need to have a certain amount of that rubber material, and it needs to be of appropriate quality and all of those things. There's a lot of details to this, and how that sits on the subgrade that's underneath it and how well it drains determines how long it's going to last and how well it's going to work for your field. So it's just like a roadway in a sense that if you don't have your base prepared well, then the surface isn't going to function well. So there's a lot of pieces to this. And that is something that we've learned through the process dealing with Fisher Field, and the same applies to the baseball field. So I just mentioned that not all costs are created equal. You got to make sure you're getting the right thing for your field. So, we could be looking at anywhere from, $200,000 to $600,000, depending on the size of the field that we're going to be turfing.
Sure.
And that's a real spitball for you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. Yeah.
And the fact she pulled that off this evening is very
Well,
admirable. She's got
That's a
connections.
It's
Right.
not like it's unknown things. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't like to give you a hard cost
Oh, sure.
because we
Yeah.
haven't done all the, because we knew it was going to be additional costs, and we had a set budget, and we're just trying to do the best we can with the money that's available. And
Yep.
so that's what I know.
So we have received the update. Item B was to consider a funding request.
Yes. You received the update, and the funding request was requesting the city to pay an additional $200,000 towards the project so that it could move forward. If the city is not in favor of doing that, then we will reject all bids and go back to the drawing board on this. The PBC approved the project unanimously with those that were in attendance at the meeting, requesting that the city pay the additional $200,000 in cash towards the project.
After adding an additional 3 of their own.
The NRC added 300,000 of their own, yes. The PBC cannot add any additional
Right.
until after 2024, because 2024 is when we're scheduled to do the re-turf at Fisher Field, and we're paying off bonds
Paying off the
on,
old bonds, too.
Yeah.
on the other, plus then we'll have that big cost come in, so there's a lot of pieces to this.
24 is going to be really skinny.
Yeah.
But we can make it.
And we have reserves in our water fund that,
This is, like I said before, this is some of that money that we put over there all the time and save for like the water plant redos and stuff like that.
Water tower, tank, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
But 200,000 would be something we can do.
If you are thinking that you want to do artificial turf on any of the fields, say Kenny Williams or CR2, I would not recommend that we move forward with the project as presented, because we're planning to put irrigation in place, and that is not going to be needed if we're going to do artificial turf. So I just want to make that real clear. If you wanted to consider artificial turf for Klein Scott at a later date, we could bring that back. If, but we do need to have a funding source.
Is there any, and this, I think I'm a grass guy myself until my army worms ate it last year, but is there is there any kind of life expectancy or anything out of grass on a baseball field from use of it, or is it that the season is long enough, the off-season, that it will replenish itself and grow back? And,
Depends on the use. I mean,
Okay.
they reseed for sure.
yeah.
Maintenance costs, you've got maintenance costs on a natural field,
Yeah.
the same that you do.
I was just wondering if we
artificial.
move forward with this, like if we could say that, I don't know, I mean, the grass that was planted, it's right, we can expect 5 or 6 years before we really have to do anything major to the field or anything like that, or is it longer than that, or?
I think we would say 5 to 6 would certainly get us by, yes.
Okay. So in 5 to 6 years.
Maybe
if-
longer. I mean, they're going to be
Yeah.
doing annual,
Sure, oh, yeah.
Reseeding,
And
overseeding.
I do want to compliment how good the fields look for what they have out there.
Joel at the
Yeah.
NRC, he's the baseball guy, and he does the fields, and he does a great job.
Yeah, and I'm impressed, especially with, I think I have to get him right, Kenny Williams is at the one to the west. I'm impressed with that, considering that there is not a sprinkler system, correct?
Right.
I mean, I'm impressed with how it looks, and I know it's early, but
Well, there's some pieces. Nothing is
overall, though,
perfect
it looks
out there.
nice, though, for no sprinkler. I mean,
this-
I can't get my yard to look that nice with no sprinkler system, so.
So we're looking to hopefully solve a lot of the problems that make those fields unusable after rain events through the regrading.
There's some regrading, fences are going to be moved, that kind of stuff, especially Kenny Williams. That's a big deal at Kenny Williams.
So, if we can do that and NRC's pitched in and everything, I say we move the project forward. The community has waited for these
Yes.
fields long enough, I think.
Amen. So what do you need as a motion to consider or to approve the funding request, which is the 200,000? Okay, I make that motion.
1 second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to move forward with what we've been provided for that tonight. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, aye. Okay, we'll move forward with that. And that brings us to the end. That's all of our business tonight. We'll go around. While we're here, I want to thank those who are here, Nisley and Midnight Housing, both of you
yes.
are still here and sat
Thank
through
you.
this. Thank you for coming. Who knew baseball fields could be so exciting when you're not actually at the baseball field? All right, Commissioner Stinnett.
Thank you. I think we've done a lot of work with spending money and everything. I like the fact that we kept recycling in some form and fashion for those in our community that wanted to continue to recycle, so that's great. My ask would be is, how do we provide some relief to the current trash customers now that we are not doing recycling at a city level, where there'll be a reduction in their trash bill to offset that cost. So you
Yeah.
can get back to us on that.
Well, I could comment that we did, remember we looked at, it was just a hair over $1 that we did an increase across the board. We have had, and Donna could speak to this, but we've had some data processing costs for credit card payments and those kind of things that we've been eating in there. And we kind of feel like that is a wash, correct?
Right now, we decided to, everybody was really complaining about having to pay $1 to do their credit card on the internet or to do the IVR, which is the interactive voice response, because we can't take, because we have a recorded phone line, we are not allowed to take the credit card over the phone anymore, so they have to go through the little computer lady. And that costs $1.25 per transaction. So we decided to eat that, basically pay for it for all our customers, because you can't just pick and choose on the internet or the IVR or whatever. And that's about $8,000 per quarter. So that's going to be $32,000 a year, at least. So this, our expenses are just going up. Where our new software is coming in, we're going to be able to do the e-statements, and they can text to pay, we're just moving everything up a notch.
I still push for some sort of a relief on that because, recycling has been community-wide and it's been buried in that bill. And I think that, there needs to be some sort of a relief reduction on that. It's one of the bone of contention in our community is the water bill because it's combined and everything. And
May I ask a question in line with what he just asked? So that included too, didn't it, the hiring of additional person when we did that? Because you had to bring on a new staff member, benefits, and so that person could do, you have that person on staff already.
Well, we've had a
And you've had-
position that's open and we've taken it, we quit advertising it when all of this came up. So we have a position that we're cutting and nobody's filling it currently.
Okay. Checking the carts and all of that stuff.
Well, we
mean,
still
that
had
was the
somebody
whole
checking
purpose.
cards. What we're doing is switching people around. There's
Right, but
a position that's going to
there should be some cost savings there because the manpower at that position, you can move that person elsewhere within the organization and put them under that cost center. You have a recycling truck that can take the place of a trash truck and be repurposed down the road and everything. So there should be, our community should see some cost savings there is what I would expect.
We'll look at that.
Anything else? Kelly?
In case you haven't already heard, we are very pleased to tell you that we were recently awarded a Main Street community through the state of Kansas and the Kansas Main Street program. It's a great designation for us. We've been working on it for quite some time, and kudos to the Community Development Commission and Zach and Rebecca, who really headed up that project in partnership with the Chamber and some other partners in town. So this will bring resources, educational opportunities, and some grant funding going forward for the downtown. So we are really looking forward to that. And there will be a presentation by the Main Street state staff. It is next Tuesday, the 19th, from 11 a.m. to noon at Prairie in the mezzanine. I believe you have to register. Oh, no registration. Okay. I wasn't sure on seating. I don't believe there's refreshments. But so anyone who's interested wants to come find out what it is, what they do, how do they take part, whether it's a business owner, building owner, community owner, just citizen, whoever is interested. So we would invite you to come out.
Chris?
No, sir.
Suzanne?
I set up there a couple of cards, about Workington House, We the House. There's some pretty cool special activities that are going to be taking place at the Workington House here in the month of April and May. So you might just take a look at those and spread the word. We will be doing that as well.
The next one is April 22nd at 7 p.m. at the Workington House, reading and a Meet the Authors night.
Yes.
Donna?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Valentine?
No, everything, I'm saying thank you for everything. I don't want to take any more time, but thank you for everything. We're so thankful.
Okay. Vice Mayor Kane? Okay. I'll take Kathy and Vice Mayor Kane's time because I do have two things. The first one is I would like for us to consider And in a future meeting, we have so much on the plate right now, and I think, Chris, this will be primarily for you. This is not something that needs done right away, but what it would look like for us to perhaps change the way that our mayor is appointed or elected for the city. If that's something that we could add to a future agenda item, and I don't know what all that entails, so if we could get briefed on it and what that looks like, to move to maybe an elected mayor position for the city versus somebody that's appointed by the elected commission members. That's one thing. The second thing, and this is something that happened tonight earlier in our conversation, and I just want to address this. I think it's for professionalism and also to respect what happens in here in the evening. We have ongoing conversations on the bench between commissioners and between staff members. This is our time every other week to come together for an hour and a half to 2 hours and discuss what is, I believe, very important information for us to be having. And we do a very, very good job of not having conversations outside of this room and to make sure that everything that we discuss is here in the open. And so what's happened tonight has happened before, and it's frustrating to me. And I'm not saying this because I think it's directed at me, although I think sometimes it is. But when there's comments from the crowd, when we're having ongoing conversations about items, and I know that are about the item we're talking, I think it's disrespectful to the people that are elected to serve this community while we're trying to have conversation with the staff members of the city. And I just want to make it known that at any time, if somebody has a comment or an item that they would like to get, instead of making comments in the crowd, you're always welcome to come to the podium and voice any opinions or comments that someone has. I don't have anything else for us tonight. Thank you to City for hard work over the past couple weeks. And we've had a gap in there, so it's been a few weeks since we've met. And I think this